Whitaker Weekly is a 3-episode anime discussion podcast where two brothers discuss a show of their choice. The show can be anything from a current season flop to a decades-old classic. What are they going to talk about next? Who knows? They sure don't. I'm Andrew.
I'm Lee.
And this is Whitaker Weekly. Let's get right into it. Almost bit my tongue saying that. All right, let's get right into the news. A little bit of news that was announced. I want to say it was either last night or early this morning. DC has announced that the Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, it's a 6-issue comic book series, is now being turned into an animated movie. They may have announced this a while ago, but they just showed the first trailer for it today, and I watched it, and Batman fights the Shredder.
It looks absolutely incredible.
I need to let you read the comics at some point, because it is absolutely incredible. And I'm really sad that they kind of spoiled the major twist, because them breaking into Arkham and doing what they do in the trailer doesn't happen until, like, issue 5. Okay? And, yeah, I'm kind of sad that they showed that in the trailer. That being said, it's just ridiculously fun. I mean, Batman takes out all 4 turtles the first time they jump them and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a shot where Michelangelo's jumping down from high and says, "Think fast!" And Batman catches him and throws him into Donatello.
Well, like,
he thought
Raph
too fast.
comes at him, Batman takes one of Raph's size and then kicks Raph across the street or whatever. They're fighting in like an alleyway. And then as soon as he's kicked Raph, Michelangelo tries to attack him. Think fast! Grabs him, throws him to Raph, and he's just like, he thought too fast.
Oh no, it's a great trailer. You guys should go out and watch it.
Yeah, and Batman fighting Joker is just so
Shredder.
good.
Batman fighting Shredder.
I'm sorry, yeah. Shredder is just so good. Holy crap, it's quite the fight.
What's interesting is that this is technically a franchise crossover. Because according to canon, the same ooze that mutated the turtles originally also blinded Matt Murdock, the Daredevil, in Marvel. And so,
were the Ninja Turtles originally Marvel?
They may have been a Marvel property, but in canon, it's supposed to be that the same spill that caused the Daredevil's blindness.
I don't disbelieve you, because comics are weird.
Yeah.
And with Marvel, with DC...
and how many things just happen in New York in Marvel Comics?
DC reboots every couple of decades. So recently, it's like every 6 years they decide to do a complete and total reboot of their entire universe, and then end up telling you that the exact same stories over and over and over again. Whereas with Marvel, everything is canon.
Yeah.
For their entire 80 years history of being a comic book creator, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's just so much, and Marvel says that it's all canon. And just don't try to make sense of it. Just enjoy it for what it is. Anybody who tries to make sense of it, it destroys their brains.
Sure does.
Anyway, there's a bit of news that you found.
Yes. I came across some information today that they've officially announced the casting of Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho in an announced Dune movie that is slated to come out in 2020. And we're going to go ahead and link you guys to the IMDb page that has all this information on it. It's just looking like a completely star-studded cast. They've got Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron Harkonnen. What's his name? Thanos.
Josh
Brolin as
Gurney,
yes.
who was played by Patrick Stewart in the 70s version.
Yeah, in the 80s. Yeah, I think it was
70s
84.
or 80s, something like that. Yeah,
I want to say 84. And then just all over the place. Just great actors throughout.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this movie. Very excited for it.
Lots of oh, that's right. The Beast Raban is reported to be Dave Bautista.
Cool. Let's go ahead and just let them click on the link if they want any more information than that. We got we're starting pretty late tonight, and we're both already pretty tired.
Yeah.
It's been a long week already. All right, and one little bit of news I wanted to go ahead and remind our listeners of is that tomorrow we're recording this on the 13th. The 14th, so those of you who already have this game probably already know about it, but Stardew Valley for mobile hits tomorrow on the 14th. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go into 3 episodes in. This week, it was your pick.
It is. And this week, I decided we were going to watch My Roommate is a Cat. Now, you told me a moment ago just the original Japanese title doesn't exactly translate to that.
No, the original Japanese title is Dokyo Nin wa Hiza Tokidoki Atama no Ue, which translates into Dokyo Nin is roommate or someone who lives with you. And then Dokyo Nin wa is the subject marker of the sentence, so it's talking about this. It's about the sentence about
the person who were
the roommate.
That which is your roommate.
And then Hiza means knees, Tokidoki means sometimes, and then Atama is head, and no Ue means on top of. So it's saying that my roommate is sometimes on my knees, sometimes on top of my head. So that's what the Japanese title is.
Okay.
And I can understand them deciding to change the title for the English one because there's no real proper good translation for that.
Right.
My Roommate is a Cat is a totally fine name for it. That said, I'm still... I don't know if we talked about this earlier, but one of the mangas that I've been reading online was Elf-san wa Yaserarenai, which means Miss Elf can't lose weight.
Okay.
Which I think is a delightful, charming title, which means that you know that this is about an elf who is trying to lose weight but doesn't seem to be able to. Well, they changed the name to plus-sized elf in the English version, and to me I'm just like, you've completely lost the charm of the title. Just call her, just say Miss Elf can't lose weight. It's as simple as that. And it's got, and like you already get a much better feel for what the story's about rather than saying plus size elf.
Because saying someone is plus size doesn't actually give motivation to the character.
It's just a boring title. I mean, I'm plus sized. I'm a big guy. I get that, but you want to have the title something that's going to grab somebody's attention, like gets them interested in what's going on possibly in the story.
Right.
Miss Elf Can't Lose Weight sounds like a comedy to me, and I would love to watch it. And I've been reading that, but with the English title, I don't know if I'm actually going to care about it in English, just because I'm like, that's... The people who renamed it are boring. So, anyway.
It'd be like you going with the nickname of Don Machi instead of the full title, is it okay to pick up girls in a dungeon? Mm-hmm. Because that's a very interesting title.
Oh, yeah. Is it wrong to pick up is it wrong to try to pick girls in the dungeon?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, this one in English, the title is My Roommate is a Cat.
Yep. And the synopsis reads: the story of Mikazuki Subaru, a novelist who is shy and struggles in relationships with other people, and a cat who was dumped by humans and lived a tough life on the streets. Through a twist of fate, the two of them end up living together. This heartwarming tale illustrates day-to-day life through the eyes of both man and cat. These moments seem trivial, but as they build upon themselves, the two become family and find happiness in their life together. Okay, so we both watched this starting at about 2 hours ago, so these first 3 episodes are pretty recent. And so I actually got to watch this with my oldest girl.
And what did she think about it?
Oh, she was absolutely delighted by the show, and it changed the dynamic of what I enjoyed about it a little bit too. Okay. And so that is going to flavor my opinion today. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I wrote down, is actually something I said out loud to her, because the first 30 seconds of the show, they're at the main character's the funeral of the main character's parents.
Subaru's parents.
And then the very next moment it goes into the opening credits. Which, is, as we've mentioned before in various episodes, it's kind of rare to have opening credits in the first episode in anime. Yeah. So it happens. It happened here, but it seems to be kind of rare, especially if the opening credits may be spoilers for the first episode. So, but what I wrote down here was tragic backstory, check. Ridiculously upbeat opening, check.
And yeah, and that's the opening was very, very ridiculous. But also, I remember you saying before we recorded that once I translated the title for you, you're like, oh well, that makes sense in the opening title because the cat is on his leg and then on his head
in various scenes.
And
he's on the cat's head from time to time in the opening credits, just like they shrink him down to the mouse size, just for whatever reason, in the layout.
But anyway, so episode 1 is he comes across. How does he meet the cat in episode 1?
It's actually he brought a bento with him to his parents'
that's
gravestone.
Right. He was tricked by his manager, by his editor. The main character is a writer. Tricked by his editor to come out and meet him at this very lively cafe.
Yes.
And our main character, Subaru, we learn very quickly that he's a shut-in. That he cannot handle being in large crowds. He can't do it.
Right.
The noise upsets him. And after talking with his manager for a little bit, and like getting some reference materials about some things, he gets up and he just leaves. He leaves his manager there. And on his way home, he visits the grave of his parents. He brings out a bento, and it's a
store-bought
sashimi.
Sashimi, yeah.
It's store-bought sashimi. I think it's tuna. I'm pretty sure it's tuna.
Yeah, it looks like tuna.
And he put it on their grave, and he prays and starts telling his parents about how now he's finally able to make a living, sustain himself through his writing. And he said, "You don't have to worry about me anymore." And then as soon as he says that, the cat jumps out of nowhere. He says, "Oh, I thought it jumped out of the grave." But the cat comes out of nowhere, grabs the food, and starts eating it.
Yes.
That's right.
And so the cat's eating his food and knocked it all to the ground. And one of the charming things about this show is it'll play events from his point of view for about the first half of the episode, and then it'll play the same events from the cat's point of view for the latter half of the episode. And we find out that the cat at that moment was very grateful to be getting food, was kind of worrying about the human because he wasn't eating anything. But the cat had knocked all the food onto the dirt. Why wasn't the human eating?
Yeah, why wasn't the human eating? But so we then what's the reason he takes the cat back home? I don't remember.
The reason is the editor. It was his editor that he was meeting, and the editor was trying to encourage him to come up with a story.
Oh, that's right. And he saw the cat out of the corner of his eye.
And so the cat, having been fed by him, starts following him home. And he gets inspired by this cat that there's an evil presence. And so he gets the idea to write a story about a cat who's stalking somebody with the intent to kill them.
And that's his idea. And he goes home and he starts taking care of the cat, starts feeding the cat, giving it dry food and things like that, has a bowl of water out for it. And we cut back to the editor who's back at his desk at work. And he just barely got off the phone with Subaru again. And someone walks up to the editor and says, "Oh, you need to be careful with him when it's getting close to a deadline, okay?" And he's like, "Oh, really? Why?" And then it cuts back, and he is just freaking out because people are not leaving him alone. The cat, like, he's stepped outside of his office every once in a while, and he's just stepped on cat food.
Yeah.
Which is just there, and he's wondering what on earth is going on. So he scoops up the cat food, puts it into the garbage.
Before he scoops it up, he gets the brilliant idea of, "Oh, maybe he laid a trap for me. That's a great idea. I'm going to put that in my story about a cat who lays traps to try to get people slip and die." And so he picks it up and throws it in the garbage. And watching the food go in the garbage, the cat jumps into the garbage, knocks it over, and then covered in refuse...
in debris,
in garbage, in debris. The cat glares at him. We find out later that the cat is very upset that he threw away perfectly good food.
"No, you never throw away food!" And the cat's seeing flashbacks to his siblings and an older tabby cat who took care of them and things like that.
And his life on the street, and that they were lucky to get enough to eat.
That they were lucky to get enough to eat on a daily, from day to day.
Yeah,
because that didn't always happen. But anyways, he's decided he needs to repay this human for feeding him. Simply, and he mentions the tabby cat who said you always repay your debts, always repay a debt. And so he leaves food out there, but the human keeps picking it up and throwing it away, and he's like, I am repaying my debt to him, and then I am leaving, he says, and he pushes a bowl of food out. And he's constantly meowing and pawing at the door, and from the part of the episode where it's Subaru's perspective, he's just trying to write, he's trying to focus, and he can't because his phone keeps going off. The editor's now constantly calling him or texting him, and the cat is now meowing at the door. We don't know how long it passed. It's implied that a couple of days have passed, but he finally gets up and opens up the door, and the cat has
pushed his own food
bowl in front of
his office door. And
the human at this point has a couple of Subaru has a couple of reference magazines about cats.
Yes.
And in the magazine it says he looked up why does a cat, why does a cat give presents? And it said, well, it's the cat is trying to give an offering to his boss, type thing, which no.
I actually paused the show at this point and said, no, this is inaccurate. The reality is, cats will bring dead or half-dead prey to you because it's convinced you are a stupid kitten who doesn't know how to hunt for itself and is trying to teach you.
It's trying to teach you how to hunt.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what the actual science is behind it. But the cat is trying in this anime, the cat is just trying to repay the favor.
Yes, it is.
And the human then collapses. And
Subaru collapses to the ground. The cat doesn't understand what's going on.
Well, let's go ahead and say what happens in Subaru's perspective and then jump back and show what happens with the cat. So with Subaru, he just collapses on the floor and he can't move. He absolutely cannot move. And the cat's freaking out and meowing and things like that. And then
the next thing he knows, he's waking up and his manager's there.
And the viewer can see some food on his lips. Or some food on his cheek.
Yeah.
And
little notes on it from a spiral-topped notepad from a handy-dandy notebook, written and then strewn about to the hand.
Just all about the hallway that he collapsed in.
Yeah.
And the manager was saying, "I'm so glad you're okay. I've been trying to call you for the past couple of days, and you didn't answer, so I decided to come by. And I saw you pass in the hallway. I panicked, so I came inside and saw if I could take care of you."
That's where Subaru notices that the window to his house is broken.
Observant watchers will notice that the window was broken as well before Subaru did, because it's very obviously there's a break in the window leading at the end of the hallway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But apparently the manager had already called a glass replacement company before he even broke the glass to try to wake him up.
Yeah. But he anyway, he wakes up and he's like, "Oh wait, did you feed me?" Or like what's going on? "Oh, you didn't eat or sleep for a couple of days." And he goes to and he feels something on his cheek, realizes that it's cat food, and he just thinks to himself, "Did I eat that?"
He looks down
at the bowl, and
the bowl is less than it was before.
And he's like, "Did I eat that? What happened?" And he's like, "Here, I've got some ideas." He's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll go ahead and use the last idea that's on this notepad. This is a great idea. We'll go forward with this." And he's just like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, he has no memory of writing it.
He has no memory of writing it at all. And the viewer's left to think, what kind of cat is this? What's going on?
Yes.
And it turns out it's go to the cat's point of view when we see all this stuff from the cat, talking to herself.
So the cat has had a sibling pass away on the streets, and so it knows loss, and it knows what happens if somebody doesn't get enough food or something happens.
Not enough food, not enough sleep.
And it knows what a cold body feels like. And so we're finding more tragedy in this moment. But the cat is using this memory to try to get this human to eat so that he'll live. And the human eventually, the Subaru, while unconscious, sits up, his hand grabs a handful of the cat food and just stuffs it into his mouth.
Yeah.
And then, while unconscious, he then assumes the fetal position, head down, with his notebook and starts writing these ideas down and just tearing pages out of his notebook.
Yeah, and then finally, apparently, when he's finally satisfied on one idea, he then just completely falls asleep on the floor there in the hallway.
Yep.
And the cat walks up and pokes him and realizes that he's still warm, that he's just sleeping.
Yeah. And so he nuzzles up to him and spends the night. And that's where all the notes came from. And he has no memory of eating the cat food. He has no memory of...
Pretty great. Pretty great. And that's kind of the first episode.
The next episode, episode 2, starts beautifully and so accurate. The cat is sleeping on his laptop.
Real fast. I want to go ahead and point out that I think that, like, in the first episode, and we see this throughout the next 2 episodes as well, I love how they completely misinterpret each other. Because you'll never correctly interpret a cat. And a cat will never correctly interpret you. Yep. That's just the way it is. But they are, through their own means, they are fulfilling the needs of the other person.
They are.
Yeah. And somehow they're doing it. And I think that's great. I love it. But anyway, the episode, he's like, I can't work like this. Why is he doing this? And then it cuts and the cat, or why is she doing this? And the cat is asleep on his laptop.
And every time he tries to budge her, she just repositions herself like, no, I found this place. This is where I'm napping.
It reminds me of that meme of the cute little orange kitten sitting on a laptop. And she says, if not for sits, why is it made of worm?
Yes. That's exactly what that is. That is exactly what that is. Then what happened? Oh, okay, so he tries to come up with a way of getting her off the laptop, and he decides, okay, I need to tempt her with food. And then he knows he's out of cat food. And he's out of human food. And he can't, okay, I know, I'll order food online. I can't, the cat's on the laptop. Wait, my phone. He pulls out my phone. And he pulls out his phone and starts to order, and then realizes that shipping will be 2 to 3 business days. I can't wait that long. I'm gonna have to go out in public.
I have to go outside, and he does so. He goes outside. He goes out into public, and he goes to
a grocery store first.
Well, he goes to it's a convenience store. It's a convenience store.
He goes to a convenience store and goes to their cat food aisle, and the cat food that he would have bought the shelf is empty. It's out of that particular brand or whatever it was going to buy.
It's a convenience store, so they have they have many different items, but not a lot of the same item. If you catch my drift,
they wouldn't have a lot of variety of the same product.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of different brands.
Right.
They had wet cat food and dry cat food. That's what they offered, and it could have been like
it could have been a bag of dog food right next to it.
It did say dog food next to it. Yeah, it said dog food. It had I don't know if it said dog, but it had the kanji for dog, or at least something. Okay. Maybe it was just a picture of dog, but I was able to register it as dog food,
but they had a very small selection, and the one place where it would have been was empty.
There was a sale on it, and it all got bought out.
And so he just buys himself a loaf of bread, thinking he'll feed that to the cats, and he goes, oh. And once he's bought it and out the store, he goes, wait, is it really safe to give a cat human food? And the answer is no, not if it's bread.
Well, yeah. Well, and then he's just like, wait, but where would I go to get cat food? I don't even know. And he sees across the street, and we forgot how the episode started.
The episode actually
starts with him inside of a pet store, and he's just freaking out because of all the noise, all the squawking. He's just like, this is the worst decision of my life.
I've made a terrible mistake.
I've made a terrible mistake.
He's just panicking. I've made a terrible mistake as all the noise is just building around him. And what happens, and why we brought that up, is because at this moment, as he's about to walk into the pet store, he sees it across the street and goes, oh, it's a godsend. And he walks in. I was wrong.
Yeah, I was wrong. This is hell or something like that. But no, it's, I have to learn what that phrase is, because he did not say godsend. He said something to do with ship. He said something to do with the ship, like maybe it was a miracle ship or something. I don't know.
Because at that moment, it actually puts him in a treasure boat of some kind.
Yeah, it's some kind of a boat, with a lot of treasure on it. But yeah, I'm gonna have to. I want to look up what that phrase was.
Yeah, the iconography of it seems to be meaningful in
Japan, in Japanese culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, he goes in, and he starts freaking out, and then he just runs to He runs to the dog and cat food aisle. And he's like, okay, I don't have to, like, I'll just get the food and get out of here. It's okay. I'll do this. Buy the food and get out of here.
Next thing you know, he's crouched down holding 2 bags of what seem to be identical cat food. Like, what is the difference between these two?
He's like, wait, why is there so many? Because he just sees so many different types of cat food. And he's like, what's the difference? Which one should I get? What's the difference between these two? And then this girl walks up. She's working at the store, and I wrote down that, hey, it's the girl from the opening credits. And it is. Like, there's a girl very briefly in the opening credits, and she's
there's a handful of secondary and tertiary characters in the opening credits, and she's one of the few
and she's
females.
one of the one. And if you see that poster there, she's up close, and she's holding another cat that looks similar to the main character's cat. I wonder if it's one of the cat's siblings or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe
she saves another. Maybe she ends up saving one of the cat's siblings. I don't know. We've only watched the first 3 episodes. That doesn't happen in the first 3 episodes.
It doesn't.
But she's
only in episode 2, but I'm hoping we see more of her.
Well, considering she's in the opening credits and, like, there's the poster of there with a different cat.
Yeah.
I assume so.
Yeah, that's probably going to build up to something.
Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe.
But in this episode...
Well, we have, like, in this episode, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't necessarily mean that it's going to build up to something romantic, but something along the lines where he's on a journey to be less of a agoraphobe.
And I was about to say something along those lines. I was going to say that the show so far, the first 3 episodes, have been about him starting to understand that nobody's perfect, including himself, and that's okay.
Yeah,
and that he needs to, and that. It's about him coming out of his shell and interacting more with society and things like that. So I could see her getting a cat as a very, very helpful way of having that happen. I don't know if it's going to be romantic.
No.
I don't know. Probably not, just because of the way the show feels. I don't know. I think that would just kind of be rushing things, especially since it's a very short series.
Yeah.
But anyway,
okay,
she comes up
in their
and you
interaction, she starts trying to be helpful to him, and she's not picking up on the clues that he is incredibly uncomfortable talking to people, and she is just doing her job as she's being
a very polite store employee.
And so she's coming up to him and she's asking him, "Oh, do you have a cat?" "Yes." And then she asks the name of the cat, but she asks it in a shorthand, slangy sort of way.
Well,
and so he misinterprets her and gives her his name. Because he's just sitting there thinking, is this the kind of store where I have to give my name in order for them to sell to me? Subaru. Subaru-chan.
Well, he says Misuzuki Subaru, his full name.
Yes.
But it's not so much slang. It's that in Japanese, you do not need to repeat certain aspects, and she's speaking very politely, so it's not slang at all.
Yeah, it's not like ghetto or something, but it's polite, quick shorthand.
Yeah, well, and she's saying that you have a cat, and it's like neko ga imasu ka type thing, like, do you have a cat? And then she says namae wa, and but she doesn't include the cat. That's I just said
because it's assumed. It's assumed that because they're talking about the cat, she didn't need to bring up the pronoun again.
If he had been interacting with normal society, then he would have caught on that, because that's just how people speak in Japan.
Yeah.
But he thought she was asking about him because he doesn't interact with people.
Right.
So
that's the charm of this scene.
Yeah.
And so she asks about the name of the cat, and he gives her his name, and then she asks about the cat's how old. And he gives his age, which is 23. Oh, a senior citizen.
And he's just like, what? Since when did being in your 20s get you treated like a senior citizen in this country?
but apparently he wasn't, because a cat, generally speaking, lives to 15.
Yeah.
And so any cat older than 15 would need very special dietary restrictions or something of that nature. And so she goes and picks out free samples of a particular kind of cat food for him, and it's like, am I supposed to eat this? No, not you. This is for Subaru.
Well, she doesn't. Well, he says I'm pretty sure he says something along lines of I'll eat it and let you know type thing, and she's like, wait, oh, that's so funny. This is for your cat. And he's like, wait, what? And then she dawns on her.
Subaru.
She's like, wait a minute. what's your cat's name? Wait, is your cat named Subaru? It's like, no, that's my name, type thing. And she then realizes her mistake. And she, again, very politely says, I'm sorry, I should have been more clear in what I was asking, when really she did just fine. It's his fault for...
Yeah, he failed to notice social cues, but as a store employee and as a culture of hyper-politeness,
yes,
she takes responsibility.
She does take responsibility for it. And she says that he... then she learns that, oh, wait, so that was your name? Yeah. And that was your age? Yeah. And he gets so embarrassed. And then she learns that the cat is still very young and stuff like that. And she gives him some different samples, says that these are for your cat. And he just leaves the store. He just runs off.
Yes.
And then we get to the cat. And the cat has been having a very interesting day. Interesting in terms of a cat, because he fell asleep on the keyboard and the laptop went to sleep mode. Or died. Either way, it shut off. And you're just like, why does it have to go so cold so quickly? And he gets up, he stretches, he goes around, or she goes around.
Yeah.
And then she hears something in the kitchen, and she runs towards the kitchen, and she sees this guy who's his... Like, we didn't really talk about this in episode 1, but he has he has a schoolmate friend.
Yeah, he has a best friend who lives a few doors down, who pays him visits from time to time.
And eats what little food he has in his fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this time
the first time he shows up and he's sitting there eating the food, the reason he gives is, because I was in America and my wallet got stolen and I barely made it back here, and when I came home, my parents weren't home, so I came here to eat something.
I went to my apartment, but there was a fire or something above it, and then my apartment was flooded because of the fire from the sprinkler system, and then and then I went to my parents' house and they weren't home, so I let myself in here, and yeah.
Yeah, now I'm eating your food.
Now I'm eating your food, yeah.
And we don't believe him.
No, not at all. But this time he breaks in, he's knocking on the front door, and but Subaru isn't home. He's like, that's weird, Subaru's not home. And so he goes around to the back door, which is unlocked, and he goes inside, and he actually has some food that his mom made for Subaru, and he puts the food in the fridge.
So he puts the extras in Subaru's fridge and leaves a note on the fridge door.
And grabs another fish sausage for himself to munch on. And leaves a note on the door, and it just says, I made too much, please enjoy, which is, she was planning on giving some to him, let's be serious. That's just their excuse. I made too much.
Yes. And so she looks, and so the cat, seeing this stranger in the house, thinks that he's there to steal all the food, of which there isn't very much left. And so she's terrified and runs and hides and ends up inside a box. Now...
Oh, that's right. She gets up, she wants to eat. She's like, this is great. I can sleep whenever I want. There's so many warm places to sleep, and I can eat whenever I want. And goes out to the dish, and she's like, I was thinking too soon. There's no food. There's no food! And then she hears the guy in the kitchen, and she thinks that he stole her food because he's eating the fish sausage again.
Yes.
And she's like, he probably stole my food too! And she hisses she hisses at him and then runs away.
Okay. And now on the way home, still struggling with actually being outdoors and with his general agoraphobia, Subaru gets a call from his editor. And we've been saying editor and manager back and forth, but the word they use in the subtitles is editor. And he's having a bit of a panic attack. Subaru's having a bit of a panic attack, and the editor's trying to be friendly and kind and wants to know the name of the cat. Which he hasn't named the cat, and he's already stressed out because the lady at the store asked for the name of the cat, when in reality... Apparently, even after delivering the first chapter of his novel, which was his deadline in the first episode, he hadn't named the cat.
Yeah,
and so they want.
This is another misinterpretation where the editor is asking for the name of the cat in the book, where he thinks he's asking for the name of the cat in his house.
Yes. It's like, why is it so important that this cat have a name? Well, the readers will get attached to the cat if it has a name.
He's like, oh, you're talking about the book. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll think of a name and let you know.
At this point, the manager doesn't know he has a cat in his house.
Yeah, he doesn't know he has a cat in his house, yeah.
And then and he finds out in episode 3, and things happen there. So... We will get to that.
But so he gets home, and the cat's not on the laptop anymore. And he's like, "Oh, great! I can get some work done." So he puts his bag down, the bag that has the bread and the 2 samples of cat food that he was given. And he
he starts working, and then he starts thinking about the cat, and he starts looking around and finds the cat after opening up a box.
He's looking for some reference materials. I forget what the materials are for, but he's looking for some reference materials, and then he opens up the box, and that happens to be the box that the cat jumped into, and the cat is still freaked out about everything and screams. And in the cat's POV, it's, there's no room in here for you to hide. Find some other place, you know?
I mean, meanwhile, where the cat is sitting is like the perfect alcove. And so this box is full of books, except for one little spot that has enough room for the cat to lie in. And at that moment, I paused it and turned to my daughter and went, "If I fits, I sits." Because that's another cat meme.
Yeah, cats do that. That's true.
And then, okay, so he thinks, okay, I need to name this cat. But what is the cat going to... Well, maybe I should just start listing off names and see what the cat responds to. And so he starts listing off names, one after another, and the cat's just ignoring him and ignoring him. And unbeknownst to him, the cat's getting more and more aggravated with all these noises coming its way.
From the cat part of the episode, the cat's getting more annoyed and with all the noise he's making.
And so he's just lying down on the ground next to the cat in the box, trying to just coming up with word after word after word, and he says name after name, and then it sounds like he's going alphabetically, kind of. Like it started with some A's, and then it went into some K names, and then it went into some R names, and then it went into a W name. And when it came to a 3-syllable W name, the cat was so annoyed with this whole process that it switched his tail and knocked some books onto his head.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. The cat switched, and from the human's point of view, it's just like the cat hated that name so much that it hit him with the books.
Yeah.
Whereas from the cat's point of view, the cat had just been getting more and more annoyed until finally it had enough.
Yeah.
And so he gets hit by the cat.
And then the books that get knocked over, one of them ends up being revealed to be a childhood book that he had grown up listening to, that he had his mother read to him a lot over and over again as a child. And it was a book that was a relationship between the sun and the moon. And he really, really liked the book. And as it turns out, his family name, Mikazuki, has some tie to the moon in Japanese. And so he identified with the character who was the moon because of it. And so... And I absolutely love this, is that he, as he's seeing this, he's thinking about words that, he's thinking, so if I'm the moon, maybe the cat's the sun. And so he starts thinking of words that seem like sun. And I looked it up. And while Haru is Japanese for springtime, it's actually Korean for day.
Yes, I am Haru. Oh, that ain't good. Anyway, sorry.
Yes. 50% off. Go watch it if you haven't yet. Okay. And so his family name is Moon of something. I didn't actually look up how his family name is related to the moon. But he names the cat, but he says Haru, which is the Korean word for day. But it's also is also a common Japanese name, and the cat perks up immediately. Then we find out from the cat's point of view is the cat used to be friends with the little girl who would feed it while it was stray, and the little girl's name was Haru, and so the little girl. Whenever the cat heard that little girl's name, she associated it with food. And so,
yes, it's such a warm, big, round, warm word. I love that word. It must mean food. It's got to be what the humans mean for food. Haru. Yeah.
And so the cat thinks its name means food, which is, and again, from your perspective, just a beautiful moment where a misunderstanding helps them come together, despite it being a misunderstanding. Okay. And that's kind of how... And then... Oh, and it's at that point that he says, Haru, Haru. And the cat's so happy. And the cat walks off to the food dish, and the food dish is empty. But he said, you said Haru.
If you said Haru, that means there's food.
And meanwhile, he reaches into his bag to grab the food that he brought from the store.
And he opens
it up. And the cat charges across the house and puts his head right in the bag.
Just dives right into the bag. For those of you who don't have cats love plastic bags. They do. They really do. Like my cat Toby, he as soon as I open a bag, he's got to come over and play with it. If I leave a bag of potato chips, if I just like kind of leave it, if I like put it on my couch unopened, because I'm gonna come and get it later while I'm watching some TV, he will come over and he'll start playing with it.
One of Toby's favorite toys is the strip that comes off a bag of M&M.
Yeah, he loves playing with that.
Party size M&M bag. He
loves playing with that stuff. But he's not the only one. I know other cats do it as well. Sure. So again, as from the cat's perspective, from the human's perspective, as soon as he opened the bag, the cat came running
with a murder in his face. Going right for the food.
Right for the food. And that just reminded me of my own cat, because that's what my cat has done. Yeah. He hasn't done that, but he will play with bags.
And then the way the episode 2 ends is it's evening. He had only brought home enough food for a sample. He got free samples. He didn't buy a full bag of the stuff, and so he can just go out and get more. And so he turns to the cat and says, "I'm going to get you more food, Haru." And then he goes up to leave. And the cat goes, "Yes, food. Where are you going?" Yeah,
well, like the cat's like, "Yes, food." And the cat brings the bag. And he's like, "This was great. Do you have more of this? Do you have more of this, Haru? Like, do you have more of this delicious food?" "Yes, Haru, I love it." And from the cat's perspective, the human just gets up and walks out and closes the door after saying food. And he's just like, "What?" And like it's just this drawing of the cat in black and gray, and it's not even like it's a very, very silly caricature of the cat. Just kind of what?
It's the cat cold and alone. Mm-hmm. It's the illustration is some combination of cat and snowdrift.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then from the human's perspective, because we got all the human's perspective before the show rewinds a bit and gives us the cat's perspective, he is humming to himself as he's walking down the street to go back to the pet store to pick up more cat food. Mm-hmm. So he thinks everything's fine and dandy, whereas with the cat just feels abandoned. And what just happened? Why did he say food and then leave? I don't understand. All right. So that's it for episode 2. Episode 3. Episode 3. It starts off with the manager saying, "Hey, I want you to come to this cafe with me. We're gonna meet here at this cafe." It's like, why? Why should I meet with you at this cafe? Mm-hmm. And
he said it was a robo cafe.
It's a robot cafe. All the servants are robots. We have to go be served by robots. It's gonna be amazing.
Now, I read an article recently that it's actually happened in Japan where they're trying to find ways. So they're not really robots. They're piloted.
Oh yeah, I watched the video of this.
Yeah, and so in Japan, apparently what they've done is they're trying to give jobs to paraplegics by starting up a robot cafe where they're not really robots. They're just piloted by people who couldn't. They're remote controlled. They're RC fake robots.
I want to say that the people who are piloting the robots all suffer from MS.
Yeah, it was a multiple sclerosis thing.
Yeah, they all suffer from MS. And they wanted to give them a way to feel useful again in society.
And so by piloting these robots where they have cameras and being able to remote pilot these things, they'd be in a position where they could actually provide a service and earn money in the real world. Which is just a beautiful thing.
Okay.
So there's just, I love that Japan is moving forward with robot cafes of that nature.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And that was only like
there was one test restaurant.
It was a proof and concept type thing. It was a proof and concept where I think it ran for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So Maybe less. I don't remember. But anyways, and the editor's trying to convince him to go to this robot cafe, and he's like, "Look, I don't want to do it." And suddenly the cat, Haru, as we can call her now, she's meowing against a bunch of other cats who have gathered outside. And there's like 3 or 4 cats that have gathered outside that are meowing as well.
Yeah.
And the editor's like, wait a minute, what's that? Like, do I hear meowing? Are there cats nearby? And he's like, yeah, I've adopted a cat recently, and there's a whole bunch. And the editor immediately says,
I'll be right there.
The editor's just like, change of plans. We're going to meet at your place today. And he's like, wait, what? Huh? And then the editor shows up, and he's like, where are the cats? Where are the cats? Where are the cats? I shooed them away. Oh.
And now the editor is curled up in a ball crying in his front walkway.
He's like, no! And then he sees Haru, and he's like, oh, there's a cat. He's like, yeah, that one's been. I took that one in a few weeks ago. He's like,
you're a cat person? I knew you were.
No.
Oh, and that's the thing I wrote down is that the editor ultimately decides that he's just going to have daily meetings at Haru's house, and he's going to bring his work with him so that he has a chance to meet the cat and get the cat to love it.
He just wants to play with the cat, and we get kind of this montage where Haru is realizing that the editor is coming over on an almost daily basis. And it used to be a couple of times a month, but then he realized that he has been coming over trying to play with the cat, and the cat doesn't really want anything to do with him. The cat doesn't really trust other humans yet.
No.
He only really trusts Haru. Haru only really trusts Subaru. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Subaru, or...
of course, whenever I think Haru, I think of one of two things. It's either the guy from Free, or it's actually Haruhi from... Ouran High School Host Club.
Yeah.
But they sometimes call her Haru.
Haru.
As a nickname.
Mm-hmm. There's also Harumiya Susumiya.
Yeah, there's that. And then Subaru was the name of the main character in Re:Zero.
Oh, okay. Anyway, he finally kicks the editor. Well, the editor comes over to the play, and he gets too close to Haru, and freaks Haru out, and Haru drags her claws across his face.
Yeah, so now he has 5 even claw marks.
Yeah,
like, it was my fault.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Subaru is freaking out, thinking that he's going to be upset and stuff like that. But no, he's like, oh, I scared her. Well, and the reason he's very much a cat person. He loves cats, but his wife is allergic, so he can't have a cat. That's revealed during that as well. And he apologizes for that. And he says he got carried away. And then he just kind of is like, he gets a call and he needs to go into the office. So he goes into the office. And then Haru goes back to work. But not Haru. Subaru goes back to work, and Haru starts being
crazy.
Goes into crazy cat mode. People who've owned cats know this. Cats just they're usually very, very lazy, very laid back, methodical, some would say snobbish creatures.
Yeah.
But every once in a while they just cut loose.
They go into a psycho hunter mode where they feel the need to actually use their hunter instincts to go after something, even if it's imaginary.
And so, as a cat person, I just saw that that's what the cat's doing.
Yeah.
And that's what the cat was doing from the perspective of the human, from the perspective of Subaru.
So, from his perspective, the cat does the following stupid things. 1, it runs across his desk while he's trying to write on paper with his pen. And then the cat's... so then for another reason, he's on the floor for something, and on his back reading or something, and the cat bounces off of his stomach to try to get something in the air above him and goes off. He's sitting at a table drinking tea, and the cat runs across the room in a couple laps, jumps across the table, and then dives under a newspaper. But it really comes to a head when the cat when Haru runs in out of the office,
let's
and
go ahead.
You hear a clattering.
Yeah, there is, but we should. Yeah, okay, yeah, and we hear a clattering. For some reason, I thought you were skipping ahead until then, but yeah, we hear a clattering, and then Subaru goes out and he sees that Haru has knocked over the shrine or parts of the shrine that is dedicated to his parents in his house, and he gets very upset and he yells at Subaru, at Haru, and Haru gets upset and then walks away and starts bathing herself.
Yep.
And Subaru's just like, you really don't care at all, do you? And he goes and
thoroughly cleans up after the mess.
And then the editor starts calling him again. And he talks to the editor for a little bit. I don't remember what the conversation was about, but Subaru is very, very much done with people and just interacting at this point because why don't people care about how I feel? Like, why don't they care about how I feel? It's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
He
goes back to writing, and his
pen is out of ink.
His pen is out of ink. He's got a very beautiful fountain pen.
Yeah.
And he goes into his drawer, his extra supply is out. And then he thinks maybe he needs to go out and buy some. Oh, wait, I haven't been in my parents' room in a long time. Maybe they have some.
And then he goes over and he opens up the door to his parents' room. And we should probably say that in this episode as well, we're seeing flashbacks to him when he was still a teenager, when he was like 15, so about 8 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And his parents were, his mom especially, was excited about this 5 days off that their dad got for a vacation, and they wanted to plan a vacation together. And him being a 15-year-old kid didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, traveling makes him tired. He's not interested. Yeah, he just wants to stay home.
Just wanted to stay home. Just wanted to read. Didn't care about anything else. And he anyways, he then goes and he opens up his parents' door, and you see a brief flash of his parents in there greeting him, and then it was just, his imagination as they fade away. And he goes in and he starts looking for some ink, and then Haru shows up.
Haru shows up in crazy cat mode again, jumps over him, jumps on a pile of books and knocks him down, and is still glaring in midair, growling at nothing.
And what he knocked down, what she knocked down, was some photo albums.
Yes.
And he starts going through them, and he starts seeing all these pictures that his mother had so carefully put into these books with labels and like her hopes that were associated with each picture as well. And there was one picture where he sees his himself as like a 3-year-old boy, and his parents, and they're at this very, very famous shrine. I forget what it's called in Japan, but we've seen pictures of it. It's the I want to say it's the door to heaven. I could be wrong about that, but it's that Shinto gate.
Yes.
Built in a lake.
Yes.
And they took a picture of them in front of it. And then the one below that it said 10 years later, and it's just the mom and the dad. And the mom wrote, "I hope that we can all three of us can be in the picture next time we take it." And he just breaks down, and he realizes that the reason that not only do people not care about his feelings and how he feels about things, he doesn't care about how other people feel either.
That's true. And that's been his problem.
And he remembers his parents, and he remembers the last time he saw them and the smile they gave him, even though his mom was still asking him to come with them. Saying, "Get out of here, you're gonna miss your train." And that was the last time he saw his parents alive, and them
because they died on a tour bus crash.
They died in a tour bus crash. But anyways, and he breaks down and starts crying.
Yep.
And from his perspective, he sees he sees Haru poking him.
Yeah, poking him and then licking the tears off his cheeks.
And before then, though, the editor asked him if he had ever, asked him what it was like to pet Haru. And Subaru's like, I don't know, I've never touched her. Like, wait, what?
Apart from picking her up or helping her get in my house. No.
Apart from picking her up on the day I met her and helping her into the house, I haven't touched her. And he's like, how? Why? I mean...
Yeah, he could not imagine having a cat that you didn't want to pet.
Yeah. Yeah. And, he goes, Haru comes over and licks him. And then Subaru pets Haru for the first time and realizes just how comforting petting a cat, petting a pet can be.
What? Okay, so what happened was Haru licks Subaru's tears. Subaru sits up, kneels up, sits up in a kneeling position, and then that's when Haru climbs onto his knee for the first time.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he pets her.
And that reminded me
of
when...
So that's I had to bring that up because of the episode title, because of the show title.
Yeah.
The original show title.
And that's... I've got a picture of it somewhere in my Google Photos, but I remember when Toby did that for me. I was just sitting on the floor with my back against my couch, and he came over, and he didn't climb all the way onto my knee, but he came over, and he was kind of checking me out, and he put both of his paws on my leg and just kind of leaned forward, and I was able to pet him and stuff while he was checking me out. So...
That's adorable.
Yeah, he's a great cat. But anyway, now let's go ahead and go to Haru's perspective. And this entire time, Haru was seeing two pink cloud things fluttering about. And she was freaking out because she's just like, there's only supposed to be two things in here, me and the human. What are those?
Yeah.
And she was chasing them the entire time.
And these things have been floating around Haru and trying to... and keeping him company in some ways.
As soon as I saw the two pink floating things around him, my thought was, is Haru seeing Subaru's parents? And then as she's chasing them around and they fly into the pictures on the shrine, I was just like, yeah, I called it. It's totally the spirit of his parents.
Yep. And so...
And we should... Real fast, I just want to say, when Subaru comes in and yells at Haru for knocking the shrine over, I loved Haru's thought of, I've got it. Like, I'm freaking out. I've got to calm down. And then she goes over and she starts bathing. It's not a I don't care. It's a I'm wigging out. I need to calm down thing is what she's doing.
It's self-soothing.
It's self-soothing.
Okay. And then the events that transpire in his parents' room is that these two pink apparitions are circling above the bookcase, the short level bookcase that the cat jumps on and knocks down the albums. And after seeing the human cry, the cat thinks the human is scared of the ghosts too. And the cat decides, it's okay, I'm going to protect you from these things.
And the cat, Haru jumps down and starts meow and starts hissing at the ghosts. But
eventually, once Haru actually comes to the realization that his parents loved him, once Subaru comes to the realization
we've been both making the same mistake all night long.
His parents, it's late, we're tired. That his parents loved him, that they wanted to share these memories with him. And that he's now opening up and becoming a better person. Not just, his parents had two worries for him. One was the financial, which they're not worried about because now he's financially successful, and two was social because he's been a shut-in for most of his for all of his teenage life and now the early part of his adulthood. And this cat, just by jumping on the right book at the right time, has helped him to start back on this journey of reconnecting with society.
Reconnecting with the human race.
And that's when the two pink apparitions take on the full form of his parents and to tell the cat thank you.
And say thank you.
And vanish.
Yep. All right. Well,
and that's basically the end of episode 3.
Yeah, that's it. That was basically the end of episode 3. Well, I added it to my queue after that. I think it's a delightful show. I'd love to see more of it. I want to see where it goes. I want to see this cat pull this guy out of his out of his shell some more.
Yeah.
What about you?
I didn't add it to my queue immediately because there's just so many other things on my list at the moment. I've been able to finish a few things up. Earlier this week, I wrapped up Shirobako.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Which is absolutely adorable, and it had a great ending to that. And I can't wait to talk about it during our recap episode in episode 50.
Here in 5 weeks.
So stay tuned.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's it for this week's episode.
What are we going to watch next week?
Next week, we're going to be watching my pick of Space Battleship Tiramisu. The Earth Union is locked in a massive galactic war. Aboard the space battleship Tiramisu, ace pilot Subaru Ichinose carries the fate of humanity on his shoulders. Life is tough for Subaru, but nothing relieves tension quite like launching an all-out food-based assault on his own face. Snug as a bug in a rug, Subaru soothingly unwinds in his personal mecha, Durandal F, as bliss overtakes him. The poster for this, okay, is two guys fighting each other for the shrimp tempura in a bowl in front of them as two mechs are clashing behind them.
Okay, then.
I'm very excited to see... Well, I don't know if I want to say excited. I'm intrigued. So I'm going to go ahead and give the first 3 episodes a try.
Fantastic. I can't wait.
All right. Well, that's it for 3 episodes in. Let's move on to recommendation of the week. It's your turn.
All right. This week, I'm going to recommend an old movie that has come up in numerous videos that I've been watching on YouTube lately. Last week, we were talking about Down the Rabbit Hole. And this week, I was watching some videos with some of the movies with Mikey that we've given his channel a shout out in the past before. And he was doing videos on lessons animation has taught us. And one of the videos that was really heavily influenced is going to be my recommendation of the week, which is The Secret of NIMH. It is a brilliant classic. I think it was the first work of Don Bluth's studio. Apparently, Don Bluth was working really hard with Disney, but Disney was not producing great content at the time. And so he decided to quit and start his own animation company. And Don Bluth Animation started giving Disney legitimate competition. They were spending less money and making more commercially successful animation, feature-length films, because of it. And eventually, Don Bluth's company went out of business because he forced Disney to step up their game when it came to production. Because at the time, they had made The Fox and the Hound and The Black Cauldron and The Great Mouse Detective, which were not commercial successes. But when he stepped
Wait, what did you say the first one was?
The Fox and the Hound.
Okay. Sorry. Disney made those.
Disney made those.
Okay.
Don Bluth was working with Disney when those were being produced, and he quit to make better movies.
Yeah.
And because he quit to make better movies, Disney was forced to make better movies, which is what ignited the Disney run of The Lion King and The Little Mermaid and Aladdin, which was one of the biggest trifectas of Disney movies.
Little Mermaid. It was Little Mermaid, and then I want to say it was... I'm pretty sure it was Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and then Aladdin and Lion King.
Yeah.
And it was
so I didn't say it in the order that they released.
No. Like my brain was telling me one was missing, so I was trying to fill in the one that you didn't say, which was Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
Sorry.
But by making his own movie studio, which was competitive to Disney, it forced Disney to become better. And so The Secret of NIMH is directly responsible for us having The Lion King. And as a standalone piece, it's absolutely brilliant. And so I highly recommend watching it.
There's the picture, by the way. Space Battleship Tiramisu.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think The Secret of NIMH is actually available on Amazon Prime right now.
Oh, cool.
It's either Amazon Prime or Netflix that I saw it on recently. And I'll have to take a look again. I'm planning on watching it with my kids sometime soon. But that's my recommendation of the week.
Comedy, mecha, slice of life, sci-fi, space.
Let's see how many genres we can cram into this thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And for me, it's now time for, well, that recommendation of the week, it's now time for creator shout out, and it's my turn.
It is.
And I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to Chasing Artwork, otherwise known as Justin Curry. Don't just look up Justin Curry, though, because you're going to find a musician first before you find Chasing Artwork. So look up Chasing Artwork. He's an incredible artist. I came across his work on Imgur, which is where I find a lot of artist stuff. I'm very, very grateful when people credit the artists, so I can go ahead and find them and find more of their stuff. But he has just some incredible artwork. I'll have to show it to you when I get the chance. But one of his pieces is actually a battle-damaged version of Alita from the manga, not the movie. She's a cyborg, and so like she's missing a leg and a head, but she's still smiling for you.
How is she smiling while missing a head?
I'm leg and an arm is what I meant to say.
Okay.
Her head is just fine. It's a leg and an arm that she's missing.
Okay.
But yeah. Speaking of which, I saw the movie a few weeks back and it was awesome.
Oh, fantastic. I still want. Yeah. I still want to see it. I haven't yet.
But I found like he's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, DeviantArt. We've got all those links for you guys. So go ahead and give him a check. Go ahead and check his stuff out.
Fantastic.
Give him a check. Cut him a check when you go ahead and hire him for some work.
Absolutely. Go do that. Commission your favorite artist.
Anyway, that's it for this week. Thanks so much for listening in. If you listened in on YouTube, please feel free to like this episode and subscribe to our channel. If you like what we do and want to support us, please spread the word of our podcast or even support us on Patreon. Where can they find us on social media?
On our site, WhitakerWeekly.com, currently has links to our Facebook page, Twitter account, Patreon page, and YouTube channel. We encourage all our listeners to follow us on the social media platform of their preference, and if there's one we're not on yet, please reach out to us on the ones we've mentioned, and we'll broaden our scope to include you.
All right, well, I want to give a shout-out to Ben Coombs for providing the artwork for our podcast and website.
And another shout-out to Brasmataz for writing Dry Cloth, the song we use for our opening and closer.
All right, well, that's it for this week. I've been Andrew.
I've been Lee.
And you guys have a great week.